All right, good evening, everyone. So today I want to answer a question that has been asked of me a couple of times from people who have watched some of my retouching on Instagram, here on Facebook, and obviously on YouTube as well. So I wanted to address this early on, which I should have addressed it quite some time ago, but I decided tonight would be the night that I'll do the video talking about this subject. Many people are asking, do you need an iPad or a graphics tablet to be proficient at photo retouching? The answer is yes and no. For the longest time, I've been doing a lot of my retouching free-handed, just using the trackpad that's on my MacBook, and that's basically what I've used, over the years. And even when I was editing on the iMac in the office, I was using the Apple mouse, as my stylus. But with that said, over the years, I have realized from the times that I've edited on the iPad, as well as times that I've been editing on, other devices, that a efficient graphics tablet will help you in some ways. It's not going to make your photos any better. If you have bad photos, then they're just going to be bad photos. But if you are looking for a tool, and that's all that it is a tool that will most likely help you achieve a more consistent retouching of your images, then yes, a graphics tablet with a little bit of practice will do the job for you. Now, I believe in the future, looking at what Apple is doing with this new feature that's supposed to come out with the newest OS, which is going to be basically a handoff from your MacBook or your iMac, to an iPad, different from Sidecar, which I use most of the time whenever I'm doing some editing. I use my iPad as a second monitor if I'm working, in a more confined space, if I'm not working in the office or in the studio or something like that. But this new feature is going to be a little bit different, where the iPad will detect if another Apple device is nearby. So whether that's Mac Mini or a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air or an iMac or Mac Pro, whatever it is, you can just move your mouse over to that screen and you're able to utilize whatever is natively on the iPad. So with all that said, I do think that's going to be something pretty cool in the future. But for now, the question is, when you come and you start looking at these tablets, if you're doing research on these tablets, Wacom is at the top of the food chain, just like Photoshop is at the top of the food chain when it comes to graphic manipulation software. Or we'll say Adobe is. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other contenders out there that are just as good, or maybe, Adobe is 10% better than Affinity Photo, or there are other tablets out there that are just under, Wacom's capabilities, for a far better price. So if you look at some of these tablets here from Wacom, even their cheapest tablet, the small size of this specific Intuos Pro, is $249. Well, in the grand scheme of things, if you're a working professional, then, that's just, a write-off, because the iPad Pro that I'm using here, I think was about $1,500, because it has like a terabyte of storage and, all the other things that was available to it when I originally got it. But it doesn't give me the pen pressure sensitivity that I'm looking for from a graphics tablet. And I'll demonstrate to you a little bit later what I mean by that. But you can look here, like I said, they have a number of different Wacom tablets that are available. Now you have some Wacom tablets that are as little as $79. And that's a very, very generic tablet. It's just basically a drawing surface and a pen. So, that's basically all you get here. Is you get the drawing surface in a very small format and the Wacom pen. In most situations, that's all that you really need. You don't need a 24-inch tablet to be proficient in drawing or in retouching or whatever you're using your tablet for. So realistically, you could get away with using something. I think you could get away with something like this easily. And then Wacom has a very strong warranty for their products, so you don't have to worry about that. I mean, they last forever. Most people that I know that own a Wacom tablet, they've owned them for 4 or 5, 6, 7 years, some, and they're still using the same tablet. They never had any need to upgrade. So I mean, that's again, like I said, it's a worthwhile investment if that's something that you use on a regular basis. Now there are other options. If we jump over here to Amazon, you start to see some of these lesser tablets, and they'll start somewhere between $50 all the way up to, I've seen some of the graphic drawing tablets for as much as $700 on here. I know that Wacom and a few others have tablets that are in excess of about $4,000 to $5,000, but those have a built-in screen where you can see, like on a monitor, what it is that you're editing, something, similar to this one here. But you get what you pay for, So some of these lower end ones, they may have some type of screen built into them, but don't let some of these graphics fool you, because most of these are not screens. They'll just have some graphics over the tablet just as a demonstration. But let's look at the prices. So let's go up here, and you can see the different brands that are available on Amazon. Helion, XP, Pen, all the way to Wacom, to the what is that? I'm not even sure how you pronounce that. Well, anyway, if you do a search, you'll see these. But what we want to look at here is the price range. So let's say between $50 and $100 is, what most people might be willing to spend. Some of you may be in a position where you say, well, I can spend $25 to $50. Okay, let's start there. Let's see what we can find for between $25 and $50, tablet-wise. So here's a couple of tablets that are $41, $49, $33. The only thing you have to concern yourself with is the compatibility of the tablet with your specific computer or device that you're going to be using it with. Now, some of these tablets I've seen here, they also work with Android devices. So you could plug this into an Android tablet or a smartphone, and you could use an app that's on your phone, and you could do the same type of drawings, using the tablet. So here's another one for $39, and this is the Helion tablet, and it says it has Android support, battery-free stylus, so it's one of the stylus that doesn't have to be charged. And if you have an iPad, we have to charge the Apple Pencil. It doesn't take very long to charge. It literally just takes seconds. Once you connect it to the iPad, it'll charge up pretty quick. So let's see, here's one for $26. So it just really depends on, the size, the work area, how large do you feel that you need your tablet to be? I mean, for me, I'd want something, if I was going to use a graphics tablet, to be no larger than, an iPad or a MacBook. So I could put them all in the same bag, So if I'm going to a shoot and I know I'm going to be doing some editing there on location, then I would want, something like a tablet that it would, speed up my workflow. But like I said, these are in that, $25 to $50 range. So let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's look at the rankings, the reviews of these. So if we go to the 4-star and above and see which tablets are coming up. So even under the 4-star and above, you're still seeing these $49 tablets. You still see $69 tablets. So they're getting very, very good reviews for a lot of, probably students, as well as some professionals that are using these tablets, because they're not using them, to the degree that it's a workhorse device that they're using all day long. Like you may be using your mouse and your keyboard at work. this is something that you're using for a specific task. So you wouldn't use your stylus as a mouse, to move your Word documents around or something like that. But I'm sure you could, So anyway, so where my problem lies with my editing, and I'll show you guys here. Let's open Photoshop. And it doesn't really matter which tablet you're using or whichever one you're using. You can go under your brush settings and you can set up your shape dynamics, your transfer, your smoothing, all of these things you have control of. So like for instance, under shape dynamic, I have pen pressure set here. If I go to transfer, then I could go in here and I could turn on pen pressure, if I wanted that to be activated, to give it a smoother flow to, whatever you're coloring or painting, or, especially when you're doing things like frequency separation or dodging and burning, you want that. You don't want a hard brush. You want to be able to flow around the screen and easily transition between the highlights, the shadows, and the midtones. So yes, a stylus is going to give you a lot better control when it comes to something like that. Let's just open an image here real quick. And here's one I was working on last night on Twitch. So I did almost all of the editing. I think this is just a rendered version of it. But even if we looked at this image, and I would say, for instance, I was going to, let's say this is the starting point, and I still wanted to do some frequency separation. So I could go ahead and run my frequency separation. Well, I shouldn't have done that. Let's delete these layers, because I always like to have at least one layer. So let's start there. So let's run the frequency separation. We just leave it at 14. Yeah. Go on. Oh, man. No, it doesn't matter. So let's try this all over again. See what happens when you rush? Bad things can happen. Okay, let's try this again. So we're going to open this image. Then we're going to duplicate it, Command J. Then we're going to run our frequency separation, even though this image is, pretty much set, but we're just going to run it anyway. So as you've seen before, you have your two layers in your frequency separation. You have your lower and your higher texture layer. And usually what we will do is we'll turn off the high texture, and we're going to just be trying to blend the skin tone, to get that effect. So I'm going to switch over to my other camera, and I'm going to duplicate this image for you guys. So I'm going to drag this one over to the iPad. Where you have better hand-to-eye control over what it is that you're doing, and you can be more precise to the image that you're trying to capture. So let's close that. And so, like I said, guys, it's totally up to you if this is something that you think will work for you. You don't really have to say, use this in Photoshop. You can use a tablet with Affinity Photo. You could use it with any of the free software that's out there. You could use it with GIMP. It doesn't really matter. A tablet, a stylus is nothing more than a tool versus, a hammer and a screwdriver. It's all about the artist and what they're able to achieve with those tools. So I just wanted to go ahead and do this video because a couple of people were asking me the questions related to it. Let's see what Russell's saying here. Yeah, I mean, Russell, skin tone control, things like that, whether it's your white balance, whether it's some of these actions that you're running, you have to be careful when you're running some of these actions because they have a tendency to colorize, some of the images. But just like the previous video, the most important thing is getting that white balance correct. I was watching something from Adorama this morning they were broadcasting on Twitch, and they were showing these workshops. So they were just kind of walking through and showing all these different people in different sets, for, models posing for like, simulated wedding poses and what have you. The problem with it is, just like I said before, 99% of the people there don't learn how to white balance their camera. They don't learn the basics they need. They just show up, they pay an amount, they walk in with their camera, someone gives them a remote that's already been preset for the light that they're using, the one light or whatever it is, and then boom, 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 they get their shots. And if they're overexposed or underexposed, maybe someone will come over and adjust their camera for them. But if someone is doing those things for you, you're not learning anything. And the same applies to retouching photos. You have to start with the basics. I taught myself a lot of these things, but I taught myself by watching far more skilled people, do demonstrations and teach what they teach. And I just kind of, picked my own images and I followed along until I got to a point that I felt like I was very, very proficient at what I was doing. Now, do I consider myself to be, an expert at, retouching? Not even close. No way. But I think I'm good enough that, the average client would be happy with, my deliverables. But I feel like, just like in all things, you can learn something new every day. I mean, and that should be your goal. If this is your passion and this is your career, you should be looking to learn something every day, whether it's in Photoshop, whether it's in Final Cut, or whatever applications you use, as well as the same as, would apply to your marketing strategies, So, but Russell, I do have some more actions for you. I'm going to email you or text you here in a little bit. I threw some actions up in Dropbox that you may want to take a look at, and I'll show you one of them real quick since we're already here. So we're going to go ahead and just create a stamp layer for this image, and we're just going to assume that everything is done. The image is finished. We've done everything we're going to do to it. So basically, what this action does is it kind of helps you finish your image. So there's two actions that I have for you. One is this solar curves, which helps you with getting your skin tones correct. So let's say we're just first starting off with this image, and we've already run our frequency separation action, but now we want a helper layer. So instead of doing the traditional black and white that I normally do, you can run one like this, which is going to give you a solar layer. And what this shows you is all the different tonalities in your image. And you could use this basically the same way. You could still go in and smooth the skin in these certain areas, but it helps you more to identify where all of the transitions from the highlights to the shadows to the midtones are. And as you're blending those with your mixer brush, it just gives you a little bit better control as to what to look for. And then the other, let's get rid of that. The other action is kind of a finishing action. So if we look at the image here, we're just going to run this finishing action. And what it does is it just adds a little pop into the highlights. It adds a little sharpness to your image. Like right now, I feel like this is over sharp because I've already used it before. But if you could see the difference in her skin tone, it's really making all the pores, all the texture in the skin just really pop, but more so for the hair and the eyes. So what you could do here is run this action and then add a layer mask and then invert it, Command I, and then you could just paint in where you want the, the sharpening effect to be. So if you want to paint it into the hair, For instance, if you want the eyes to be, sharp, or the lips or something like that, or maybe the eyebrows, you just lightly paint this in wherever you'd want it, and then get that effect. The other option is to just leave it as it is and just adjust the opacity. I like having a little bit more control when it comes to something like this, where I can just really paint in, if I just want to bring forth texture out of her hair or something like that, without adding a whole lot of texture to the body and everything else in the skin, so we don't want it to look over processed, which I think this image is over processed because I spent probably about an hour working on it last night. But anyway, I will shoot these off to you here as soon as I get off this live. I'll send you a link to where you can download these actions. Alrighty. All right, everybody. So if you guys have time tomorrow night, I will be live on Twitch at 9 p.m. If you guys can, join Twitch and come over and support me over there, well, it goes a long way. I'm trying to get the numbers up so more people can see the content that I'm creating. So, I'll be on Twitch tomorrow night, 9 p.m. But until then, I want everyone to stay safe, wash your hands, take care of your loved ones, and get out there and create something amazing. All right, I'll see you guys in the next live. Peace. I'm out.